Wednesday morning, and welcome to another edition, another Hump Day edition of Analyze This here on your NPR station in the U.S. Virgin Islands, WTJX FM, with yours truly, Neville James, on a beautiful day in paradise. A little cloudy, but it's nice. You had that visibility that we had towards the latter part of December, early January, but still where you want to be this time of year. Back in the studio, OL1. I got nicknames for it, right? On location 1. Yesterday over there in St. Thomas at the deli deck was a success, right? Definitely got a lot of people to thank today for making that happen. It might appear to be, seamless and, just show up and start talking and hanging out with the boys. Donald Duck's cool and Amanda Rocky Labor, but a lot of work that goes into that. I keep reminding myself, to definitely give a shout out to all the players, of course, the WTJX family. Starts with them, no doubt about that, and the leadership, and of course, the actual location, the deli deck. We chose the deli deck because we were aware of the history that spot has had. Many elected official and political pundit have hang out at the deli deck. I think we chose the right spot. You know what I'm saying? So we're good with that. I also want to give a shout out to the GRS, Mr. Roy Moorhead. Of course, the Havenside Mall is a GERS property. You know what I'm saying? So when you're doing something over there, you got to, work on logistics, parking, all that stuff. So, like I said, OL1, right? On location 1 was the joint. And we're looking forward to doing it again, St. John and St. Croix. We'll figure out ideal spots to make that happen and work on what I believe will be a good rotation. You know what I'm saying? So I want to thank everybody who was listening, tuned in, sending the comments. And I really appreciate that, Sometimes you need that to know that you're having that kind of impact. So we like that. Of course, the governor is going to be joining us today. Anytime now, as far as I know. And he actually worked his way through yesterday as well. So that was a good conversation. We didn't really get into true detail there because, we were actually just, looking at the morning after him giving his 6th State of the Territory address. But we're glad that he made some time. I know he was making his rounds. So we're good with that. Want to give a shout out to the WTJX panel and host for the post State of the Territory address discussion, which I thought touched on a number of important points that we're actually going to expound on with the Gov when he gets in the studio this morning. But like I said, we're gonna make the run. Hey, Rufus Tombo, good looking out, man. Thanks for working your way through and all that stuff. Didn't get you on the mic this time, but we will eventually. Those about that. The senators as well. Had a number of senators who worked their way through, got them on the mic, which is good. Senate President, the Finance Chair, Senator Bulkers, that large senator who actually spoke for St. John. That was good. It really was good. And we got Union Voice. Great conversation with John Woods, the president of the St. Thomas St. John Chamber of Commerce. He's some people just have that skill to, you could just talk to them, just sit along and rapping with them, and he looks like one of those guys who, when you sit along and rap, man, you got that demeanor that, after you finish talking with him, you're going to learn something. And he brought up a very, very good point yesterday that I want to, for those who weren't listening, for us to think about going forward when we have discussions about projects and all that stuff, right? He said, a contractor or whomever, if they're getting into a multi-year project, right, and they submit a proposal. For example, let's say the project runs from July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2026, right? A full 2 years. He said, I always remember that the contractor is always looking at the cost of material, or what he believes the cost of material might be, down the road. For example, if you buy material in the month of July and August of 2024, that might not be the price in July and August of 2025. So that's something you got to factor in there as well. So that's a good. What you don't want is for contractors to use that as a justification to jack up a bid price. You know what I'm saying, or a bid submittal. But it is a reality. In particular, over the last 4 or 5 years, where the supply chain's been impacted, and all that. So that was a great conversation. I like that. I definitely want to thank Dux and Rakido, for making the first on location OL1. Making me comfortable, because it's like that. Makita Russell, master producer, what I'm saying, when it comes to these projects and we do these events. So we definitely want that. And oh yeah. See, Rufus stumbled and hooking up again. He said another item that we talked about with the Chamber of Commerce President, Mr. Woods. He said concrete, right? The price of concrete is regulated in Puerto Rico, right? And not regulated in the Virgin Islands. You know what I'm saying? So there's that impacts, costs for projects and all that stuff. So, little things like that, impacting why, things are, priced at what they are here in the Virgin Islands as opposed to right next door. I don't really like to get into comparisons with Puerto Rico, simply because you're talking at its ceiling, 4 million people versus us at our ceiling, 100 and 510,000. So right off the bat, 40 times 1, 40 to 1. I mean, however, it's right next door. One of the things I will never forgive the powers that be for is even though we're under the American flag, right? The fact that petroleum products were being manufactured literally, not figuratively, literally in our backyard. And we were paying through the wazoo for it was fundamentally wrong. That's murder, man. Right in Estate Paul, Estate Hope, Estate Blessing, down on the south central side of St. Croix, we had at one time the largest refinery in the Western Hemisphere and one of the biggest in the world. And then later on, right, when they entered into that joint venture agreement with Petróleos de Venezuela, right, the state-owned oil company, and we had that joint venture, PDVSA, and they were manufacturing, petroleum products right there. We were still paying a ridiculous amount of money for the finished product and for what WAPA was using, as a energy production commodity. And when they paying 8 cents a gallon for gasoline in Venezuela, right? And we did a joint venture with them, and we paying $2.80, $3.20, $3.60, $4. Everybody knows what happened in the summer of 2008. You know, if there was ever a time that there should have been some uh, relaxation to allow for us to benefit for that, not only because it was literally in our backyard, but because you know, we were impacted environmentally. If you manufacture in that, you know, that crude, and we're a front leg community, and I learned that from Randy Russell. You know, where's the benefit? You know, that happened for 46 years. You never gave us our excise tax money back that we should have had. And, you know, that's lame, man. And that's billions of dollars that left the territory that will never come back. You know, circulation, I want. But that's a topic for another day. Now, Rima Williams going to be joining me a little bit. I saw on Twitter that the lottery office is back in business beginning today, and he texted me, wanted to come on for a minute or two, so he's on the line right now. Good morning, Director Williams. How are you? Morning, sir.
Morning.
How's everything?
How you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Awesome. It's an awesome day to be alive and living in the Virgin Islands. I just wanted to call to let our gaming community know that the VI lottery is up and operational today. As you know, we're down for a full week trying to recover our systems and get things back in place. So we are open today at 8 o'clock. We are going to continue the sales for drawing number 1025. That's the drawing that was on sale when our system got messed up. So tickets will be on sale today and tomorrow for drawing number 1025. And the drawing will happen, that should have happened on January 18th, will actually happen tomorrow. So that will take care of that draw period. And then tickets will go on sale for our next drawing. Excuse me, I'm getting a little worse here, but our next draw will take place on February 15th, the weekend of Act Fair and what we refer to as Lovers Week, which is Valentine's. That ticket will go on sale on Friday. Because we lost a full week, whereas our next drawing would have been on February 1, we're pushing that drawing out. So the next drawing will actually be on February 15th. It gives our dealers and our customers a little longer to purchase their tickets. And as a part of that drawing, we're going to be doing some bonus prizes like we've done generally when we do our extraordinary draws. So there's a little more in the pudding for that draw for that weekend, actually weekend.
Now let me ask this question. Hey, I want to make sure I get this right. We're back in business today, so we're selling tickets for the upcoming draw today and tomorrow, and the draw is gonna be tomorrow evening.
The draw is gonna be on Friday.
On Friday, okay, because you said tomorrow, so the draw is gonna be Friday, the 20th.
No, we're selling tickets for the current drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the draw that was supposed to be on the 18th, right, is now going to be on the 26th, Friday the 26th, right?
Yeah, on Friday.
Okay, so tickets are available. Lottery tickets for that draw are available today and tomorrow, and then we drawing on Friday, and then fresh set of tickets for the next draw is going to be on which will be on the 15th, right?
Correct.
That's a Thursday the 15th.
Right.
Okay, good. So that'll be 3 weeks, right? Between 20 days,
Correct.
20 days to be exact, between Friday and that particular day, right?
Right.
Okay, good. Okay,
so,
good.
One of the reasons why we're continuing in the format is because I'm not sure if you are familiar with the term throw-out day, but what happens is that in a regular draw schedule or cycle, every drawing, the day before the drawing, tickets that weren't purchased by our assigned numbers, that weren't purchased by the dealers, those numbers become available for sale to any and everyone.
Okay.
So that will happen tomorrow. So if the dealer hadn't bought the number and a customer comes to look for the number, even the dealers, because we have dealers that purchase tickets, they live as the numbers, but they purchase tickets from the St. Croix back and vice versa. So yeah, it gives you, and we also are going to be making payments. So if somebody had a winning number from a previous draw, and they need to cash it, they can come into it. And I'm just asking our playing community to be patient with us because we're testing. We did all our testing that stuff, but you just never know. So we just keeping our fingers crossed and hoping that all goes well. But we just need people to be patient. I got a snapshot of my St. Croix lobby at 7:40 this morning. Pack, ram, jam, pack.
Yeah, it was cock.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, that's good. That's good. And I'm sorry that you had that breach. You know what I'm saying? But but things happen, and the most it actually tells you the breach happening. You know, when you look at it in the macro, it actually tests your current structure, right? It lets you know where you are and what gaps you might need to fill and all that.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct.
Yeah. Well, good, man. Congrats. Glad we're back in business. Tell Jackie I said heal up, man. All right. So good luck, and good luck to all of the dealers and all of the those who play the lottery, because you know the Fungi slang from back in the day, right? When you play the VI lottery.
Sure. Yes, sir.
Everybody win, right? Everybody win, right? So back in the day. Thanks a lot, Director, and good luck.
Okay.
Okay, good. You got it. So, the lottery's back in business. Had a breach last week, but we're good. He came out last week Wednesday to speak about the breach. So I'm glad that we had the chance to speak with him to let him know what's going on. So the drawing is Friday. Okay, that's the 26th, and then later that afternoon, tickets are gonna be available for the next drawing, which is gonna be Thursday the 15th. Right, so Valentine's falls on the 14th. Okay, you know how that is, right? February 14th. That's a Wednesday this year, and then the fair, right? The Ag Fair happens on the 17th, 18th, and 19th of February. President's Day weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So we'll take a break. We'll come back. Hopefully, the Gov will get into the studio. You know he got a lot of run-ins and all that stuff, and we'll talk about the state of the territory. Period. And we're back here and analyze this and waiting for the Gov to make an appearance. You know, yesterday they had a primary in New Hampshire, right? And it was interesting because on the Republican side, make sure I get the results here. Going in the New York Times. The former president, Donald Trump, who is seeking the GOP nomination in 2024, he was victorious, defeated Nikki Haley. Right now, they have, with 91% of the votes counted, this is New York Times, as of this minute, 7:21 Eastern Time, which is 8:21 our time. 54.5% with 163,700 votes to Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley is 43.2% at 129,646. So if they apportion delegates according to the amount of people who voted, because that's what they do in the nominating process, Donald Trump gets 12 and Nikki Haley gets 9. Ron DeSantis, who dropped out on Sunday, he got 0.7%. Right? He still got 2,046 votes. So they got the total reported right now is 300,098 voters, right? 300,098. And former President Donald Trump is at 54.5%, 163,700. This is interesting, and like to delve into numbers, right? The president won the Iowa caucus 9 days ago, right, which was 8 days before the primary, on the 8th of January. Was it 8th or the 15th of January? I'm sorry, 15th. And he got 50.9% of the caucus votes then. What's interesting is that, when you compare the two, just from a percentage standpoint, really can't compare them because it's two different terrains, what have you, right? With DeSantis dropping out, the president went from a 50.9% winner in Iowa to a 54.5% winner in New Hampshire, right? That's an increase of 3.6%. But DeSantis was good for 20% of the vote in Iowa, I believe. Right, let me look at the election results in Iowa. See if I can pull that up to see the actual percentage that DeSantis got. Iowa caucus 2024. Let me see. Get the results here. Yeah, DeSantis got 21.2%, and Nikki Haley got 19.1%, and the former president, got 51% in Iowa. So it looks like, just when you look at the numbers like that, right, that with DeSantis dropping out, you would want to split whatever percentage was going to vote for him in New Hampshire. But Nikki Haley had a very good showing. The president didn't like the fact that she came out and spoke positively about her second place finish. He would look like he was insulted. He went after her last night. The one time they used, they said Donald Trump laced into Nikki Haley, right? And she said she's into the next caucus, which is the latter part of February, in her home state of South Carolina, even though she's trailing in her home state, because based on the polling numbers, right, the former president is leading down there, but he was leading, he was supposed to be winning, they had him winning New Hampshire in some polls by 22%, and now the margin is 11%. So it's going to be interesting. Clearly, the Republicans would want to consolidate around the presumptive nominee, which is going to be Donald Trump. Well, that's interesting. Now, for the write-in campaign, for the Democratic primary, let me put it that way, of which President Biden did not register to be a part of because he wants South Carolina to be the first primary for the Democrats. Remember, they didn't have a caucus in Iowa either, right? It appears that the president write-in campaign was successful because you had Dean Phillips and Miss Williamson write-in campaign. Campaign. right? And the current president, I think he let me see 1 hour ago, looking at CNN now. It looks like he ended up on, let me see what percentage he got. Let's see what percentage he has here. Okay, this is CNN. CNN got a percentage. We just got an article. Let me find one of these. See if I could go on there. Bam, bam, bam. If I know which. Okay. With about 64%, this is the Washington Post. You know, I got subscription to like 10 newspapers. Don't hold it against me. Right? With about 64% of the Democratic ballots counted. Write-in campaigns had taken roughly 73% of the vote. And the overwhelming majority of those were expected to be for Biden. Right? Dean Phillips ran far behind with about 21% of the vote. And self-help author Marianne Williamson took roughly 4% in a rogue primary unlike anything the state has seen before. Because normally the Democrats participate in the Iowa caucus and the New Hampshire primary. But one of the things that they noticed last time, right, is that they don't believe these two states reflect what the American population looks like right now, right? These are demographics that are heavy Caucasian, and as it stands right now with more Latinos, the African American, I like to say black population, being like 12, 13, 14%, depending on where you're at. And in these states, that's not the case. You know, Iowa, New Hampshire, you're looking at what, 96, 97% Caucasian. So that's the reason why they, decided, we go to South Carolina, which is closer to the demographics, right? Now, one of the things that's interesting is the former president, going after Nikki Haley for running second in New Hampshire. Need I remind everyone, right? So he was saying, like, she acting like she win. Why is she, coming up at her after party and talking like that? And she got almost 45%. She got right to think positive. You know why? Because Joe Biden, I think he finished 5th in New Hampshire 4 years ago, right? He left New Hampshire even before the primary. He went down to South Carolina, and he ended up being president. You know what I'm saying? So if he couldn't get 5% or 10% in 2020 and became president, why shouldn't Nikki Haley be upset and think positive after getting over 40%, going up against a former president with high visibility like Donald Trump? But you know how he is already, right? If you don't fall in line behind him, right, he'll act up. And boy, did he act up last night. Then he had his boys on the stage, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tim Scott, all of them been there, and looks like they've coalesced. The problem with them is they've given the public the impression that the only reason why they ran is because they want to be vice president. And, that looking kind of, shady, for the lack of a better term. But it is what it is. Can't deny the magnetism on the Republican side of former President Donald Trump. So it's interesting. I will continue to look at that and make that work. Okay? So here we go. Right? Joe Biden, right, with 90% of the votes in, right? Had 105,957 total votes, right? Joe Biden, 54,570. Dean Phillips, 20,976. On process write-ins, 14,967. Okay? Joe Biden got 51.5%. Dean Phillips got 19.8%. On process write-ins at 14.1%. And you got all the different candidates. Got a long list of names here. Even got Donald Picard, right? It was Pickard here. Okay, got a K in it. You know Donald Picard. You know, he's a big time fortune elder back in the day. So when I saw that name, I said I got mentioned on one, right? But I believe the president walking. I mean the governor. I think the governor walking your way into the studio. You put on some headphones, get comfortable, and all that stuff. Yeah, put on that one there. Yeah. And then I know we good. I mean, so the governor here coming in is in the studio. Normally, he'll come in kind of laid back today, but he looked 100% presidential today. Okay, you got some run-ins, right? So as much as he looked presidential, right? But he is the governor of the Virgin Islands. Good morning, Governor. Welcome to the studio. Nice talking to you for 2 days in a row, man. We're setting records here.
Good morning, Virgin Islands. Yeah, we got press conference at 11. More good news for the Virgin Islands, but
St. Croix, St. Thomas.
St. Croix.
Okay.
We that was nice yesterday.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thanks for being a part of it, man.
That was really nice.
We nickname it OL1, On Location 1. You know what I mean? So we look into the 2 and 3 in St. John and St. Croix, or St. Croix and St. John.
You know, I don't try and bite her. I was telling Richard this. I was like, I think Neville am onto something with that. We need to do that too. We need to get live audience.
Well, that's what they do in these cities, right? When they close off streets, like down in New Orleans, they in the French Quarter. You know, right. There's something about doing something around the people and in and amongst the people. I think that worked for us yesterday.
You know where would be a awesome place to do that?
Where at?
Like Thomas or Daniel's Bakery.
Of course, yeah, but that's what the on locations are about, man. Yeah, that's what they're about. You know what I'm saying?
Because real people will go to them places and get bush tea.
Yeah. Oh, yes. You know, one reluctance though. Some people don't like being on camera. You know what I'm saying?
They late to walk. It's 8:30 and they're now going bush tea. Going to walk. That's why they don't like
but they got
camera.
To me, they'd have a legitimate excuse that day. You know what I mean?
No, you got a legitimate excuse when you reach 7:50 and I'm talking to 8:10, but you come in at 8:10 to get your bush tea to go to work for 8 o'clock.
You know it is. So let me ask this question, right off the bat. You give the 6th State to the Territory address, and then you hear some questions. Here's the one big question with respect to that address. What happened to agriculture? I heard that in the post address discussion on Channel 12. What was it about agriculture this year that folks are saying we didn't hear anything or enough about agriculture?
You know, I guess because they're good. I mean, so when Commissioner Peterson came on, you know, the deal was, I'm going to give you $10 million and you decide what you want to do with it, and you're good. So that actually he has a press conference today, which is a good announcement. And then
Commissioner Peterson?
Yeah. They say, it's an agriculture press conference. Not necessarily associated tightly with agriculture, but associated with. So he has a number of initiatives that we're doing. Like yesterday, I went to Puerto Rico. You know, I didn't announce that either. There's actually a task force now, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers out of Jacksonville, created a task force to do the permitting in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands in Puerto Rico now.
Okay.
So we got a whole group of people just dedicated to our permitting. So yesterday was the inauguration essentially of their office. We were at El Moro.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. It was really nice. Jennifer Colon, the delegate to Congress from Puerto Rico, the resident commissioner.
That's my classmate, John.
Is it?
Well, me, I'm positive Lorraine Berry sent.
She remind me of Lorraine Berry.
Freshman senators positive Nelson and Neville James to the Eastern Leadership Academy in Philly in September 2005.
Got you.
And Jennifer was a part of that class, man.
You know she's running for governor.
Yeah. I go look for work.
Yeah, I got mixed. I got mixed emotions there. You know, Governor Pierluisi is a friend of mine as well too. So you know,
that's a cool dude, man.
Yeah, I love Pedro. He's like, you know, he really like, you know,
resident commissioner is their title down there, right?
Right. He was a resident commissioner as well too. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I was down there yesterday for that, and you know, you meet interesting people at these things, and we met this young lady introduced me to an engineer who I know were working for Port Authority down there and saying, "No, you know our new engineer working for a building. They're doing some work out of the National Guard, redoing the garages and stuff." So I was surprised. I was like, "You know what, Port Authority?" He's like, "No, man, I left. I had another opportunity." So young people, moving and grooving all the time. And then I met another gentleman who said that
So they're done in Puerto Rico, no?
he's in St. Thomas,
Isn't
but he's working for that Puerto Rican company.
Company, okay.
And then I met another gentleman, and he was like, "I just want to introduce myself. I'm doing the watershed study in Bordeaux."
Okay.
And that's what we've been working on to try to get. That's going back to agriculture.
That's a DPNR and a Vitima thing, right?
Is DPNR mostly? What are you talking about?
No, the watershed in a joint state.
DPNR,
UVI,
agriculture.
Okay.
Because we had $20 million to run water, really to Bordeaux, primarily for the farmers. But they were talking about taking it through the water underground pipeline from Wapa around the coast, and it would take too long. The engineering alone, we'd have run out of time and we would have losing money. So we're looking at wells and stuff down there. I had promised the farmers to give them a fund that they could borrow from because USDA grants are reimbursable.
Okay.
All right. So, but they don't have the money to do their initial work. So part of that money is for that as well too.
So then there's going to be a Virgin Islands grant to the agriculture industry then?
The $10 million?
Yeah.
No, it's the ARPA money that I just gave them $10 million of. And I said, hey, so another part of it is, the farmer's been complaining to me that they don't have machinery and they don't have people to come and till the land. So equipment was part of that purchase that he's supposed to do too. And some other things that he wanted to do with forestry and different things that he wants to get involved in. So we didn't mention it this year because...
So when is Akil, Commissioner Akil press conference? This afternoon?
It's 11 o'clock today.
Oh, so it's a part of your thing?
Well, it's not his. It's my thing, but it's his thing.
Okay.
It's Alawi thing.
Okay, good. We're gonna take a break. I got a joke for you from Marvin Pickering when we come back right after this. The governor's in the house. We're gonna get into the runnings of the Virgin Islands. He already gave the state of the territory. Now we're gonna talk about the runnings. Be back right after this. So we are back here in the studio, and we've got the boss here, the chief executive for the version of the boss. And WTJX is trying to say, make that clear, right? I don't have a problem there. So, Bobby, picking on teasing because right when you came in, I was talking about the presidential primary yesterday in New Hampshire. So I referred to you as the president, right? By mistake. So he told me I had a Donald Trump moment, right? in two instances. When we got hit by Irma Maria, then Governor met with President Trump on one of the warships. They came down to Puerto Rico.
That's right.
And that's when they first had the first conversation. So then the president later that afternoon said, I met with the president of the Virgin Islands. You know what I'm saying? Right? So they had fun with that. And then Friday night, he kind of lost his bearings and referred to Nikki Haley as Nancy Pelosi, right? so yeah, I had that. Let me ask this question, right? About the finances of the Virgin Islands. We got into agriculture. We got good things going on in agriculture, so that's the reason why we didn't hear more about it. My suggestion to you for address 7 and 8, always include agriculture going forward, right? Even if it's quick, right? Because food security is big. That's a concern for the people of the Virgin Islands. So always remember that. But as it relates to the finances, why would Friday we make this declaration about cash not being as available or in reserve? I think that's a better term, because there were days when we had 30 days of cash, and the OMB director said it's not like that right now, in advance of a Monday night address. I don't understand that. So that connect. Please explain that for the public.
Yeah, and if we got time to this, I could really tell you the story.
Okay, good.
Right?
Yeah.
So, honestly, my esteemed chief of staff, I'm gonna blame Kyle, is always trying to make sure that we run government the way it's supposed to do. So, and in 4 years under my belt, 5 years now under my belt, and reflection, I said, you know what? We always figure out a problem, and then we go to the legislature, and then they cost me because I don't bring the problem, I didn't involve them in the process, I don't, have no respect for the office. So I said, okay, well, we got a couple of problems. One problem is, WAPA needs to get paid. I mean, they have $14 million that is rightfully owed to them by the hospitals and Waste Management. Waste Management didn't pay the bill in like 2.5 years. Then we have a cash flow issue. So I was in the legislature. Take $14 million from the proceeds we have from all these lawsuit settlements and pay WAPA off. Mm-hmm. It's a bill. Is it not like we giving WAPA the money? They owe the money. The hospitals and WAPA.
Educate the public to the best of your ability. We got a lawsuit, X amount of money coming to the Virgin Islands. What's the process as it relates to expending that money?
That's the thing. That's the thing, right? There is no process. We could spend the money.
It goes into the general fund.
Yeah, go into the general fund.
And if you have bills, you have an obligation to pay bills, and that can be held against you.
No, but I didn't want to do that, right? Mm-hmm. I'm saying, this is a pot of money. I have money all the time because we get federal money in. Mm-hmm. This is a pot of money where I think, because it can sound hard to believe, but I actually understand the plight of legislators. They got to win an election. They need things to say they did.
Of course.
So I said, okay, we're gonna save this money. I want some stuff due. I really wanted the last thing I think, with our money that we needed to do. I really wanted to get a golf course in St. Thomas up because we have to have a golf course in our premier destination. If we don't get one,
revitalize the Mahogany Run.
Yeah.
Okay.
If that doesn't happen, if they build over that, it will never have a golf course in St. Thomas. So that's about $13 million. Other than that, I say, hey, So I put aside the money, and I called them and I said, listen, this is what we need. We need $13 million for that. We need $6 million because we were buying Caribbean Kidney Center.
Okay.
From Dr. Gardner.
Yeah.
Right, because we gotta have
dialysis.
Yeah. and then we needed. I said, you know what, guys, here's what we could do. We have this cash here. We could pay up all the tax returns. If we do it before Christmas, we're going to get all our money back because people are going to go out and spend the money.
And so this is from Epstein proceeds we're talking?
Right.
Or
all the Epstein proceeds that different people. Mm-hmm. Then we have the vendors. If we pay the vendors, they're going to restock and they're going to have money to buy shop and for people to be buying more things. Plus, they're going to pay people, which is going to make more money in the economy. So I had this discussion with them. And the $50 million, I said, look, we have the credit already. Just put on an amendment saying we could use it for short-term cash issues. So now you understand, Neville, right? Mm-hmm. That we didn't really need to go talk to them. Because as long as I don't spend over my budget limit, which is 900 and something million, it's the beginning of the year, there is no problem. But it's just like when you're in your house, right? Like I run the government like how I run my house. When I save money, I have money that come out of my check that is just savings, my 10%, let's call it, right? Mm-hmm. I don't touch that money unless I have to. Because everybody know once you go in your savings, that money will never go back, right? So it got to be like a desperate situation. So I have pools of money, the $20 million in the rainy day fund. We have some money. We have some other money there for the settlements, all these settlements we have. And then we have like Ocean Point owe me like $6 million. Mm-hmm. They owe the government like $6 million, $5-6 million, right around there.
That's a terminal, right?
Yeah, from last year. Yeah. And I just been telling them they got their own little issues. Hold on to it. Be good, right? Mm-hmm. It's interest. It's a nice interest rate again at it too. So it's like having the money in the bank, right? Yeah. So I brought him in and I said, let's do this. And these. So
you have a heart, is what you're saying?
No, yeah, this gonna make you look good. I don't need to. Yeah. And I want to foster.
But the issue is this: the $25 million appropriation for retro, and the public announcement that only 10% of that was used to address retro. And I want the public to know, I get retro payment in December. Okay, so I ain't trying to be a hypocrite here. I get mine for my working, my union days in education and AFT. So where is the other 90%?
So it's like
the other 22.5 million.
So it's the same thing, right? It's an appropriation. Appropriation is just an authorization,
a paper authorization
to spend. Yeah. There is no cash. The legislature write me a check for $25 million and say, "Hey, pay the people them." They don't know where the money coming from. They just see Jennifer tell them, "Okay, the money gonna be." They just write the appropriation. They did, but we end up having a lot of expenses come in, and we didn't have the cash. And then is when you gotta make the decision. Who do you pay? Right? Payroll first. You pay the vendors where you can, payroll, and then you got to pay the vendors. You still got to give appropriations to the hospitals and waste management.
Agencies.
The agencies you got paid out to, because we know things are going to be brung till April, because we're not going to get any huge set of money. So,
well, yesterday, my program has a far reach, so one of my people had me to know. You're gonna get a lot of grocery receipts in January because there was a lot of spending in December. Keep that in mind, right? that gonna be a nice little payment there towards the end of the month, though.
So I want to tell you,
that's a January 30th payment.
So I know the money coming, right? So I'm not worried about money. What I'm worried about is my seniors have 20% inflation on them, right? Any little time I could get them some cash. That's all the retro people and stuff. I want to get them some cash.
Why inflation so high here when inflation going down on the mainland? The lag's supposed to kick in now, no?
Because the economy is on fire. So the demand for space, for workers. If you get 3% unemployment, so let me show you how this happens. If you have 3% unemployment, that means that if I want to have people walking at my cash register in Pueblo who normally make $10, I got to pay them $15. Mm-hmm. I have to keep paying people till the impetus for them to get up off the couch.
So this is a negative effect of a good economy.
Yeah. Is to the point. So if I'm paying somebody to flip burgers $15, well then the burger got to cost more, because now that is add to that.
So that's the trickle up economics that going on.
I like that.
Right.
So I didn't just make up the people. So if people want space, if to build space, everybody, I put all this money, or we put all this money out for construction to buy new homes. You have all this construction going on. So if a contractor got 10 people waiting for a job, and Neville from the private sector, so he got money. So he said, you know what? I'm gonna pay you $100 for that $50 job. The new price is $100.
The market.
Exactly.
The market has changed.
It just puts pressure all the time for things. Credit is more expensive. So,
but here's what we want, Governor. We want an even better relationship with you and the legislature and the judicial branch.
We do, but
pick up the phone and say, yo, this is what's going on. I don't want you to hear it out the road. You're hearing it from me.
But you know what? The two things.
Like I believe the Senate President was a Gen Now member back in the day.
No. Senator Francis, we work good. Like most of them, we work good together, right?
Yeah.
What happens is, this, when you get in the legislature, sometimes it gets to be a runaway train because there's a lot of point scoring. You're trying to get that soundbite so you get covered in the press tomorrow. You're trying to say something quippy and smart that people are going to repeat.
Well, that's something that Carl Knight would enjoy talking about. That's actually a byproduct of the political structure we're in, where everybody running against everybody.
Everybody is running.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that, there is an expectation. And, in my speech I said, a lot of people just enjoy the spectacle of politics. Right? They want to see the commissioner and them go up there and get grilled, and they'll grill them. And, that's not productive for the people of the Virgin Islands. So there's an expectation on legislators that they just, are you just doing what the governor wants? Well, the governor and you belong to the same political party, and nobody explains that to people. It's like, I'm a Democrat, he's a Democrat. So when we do things, we do it for the benefit of the people. So you just rubber stamp everything the governor wants.
A question here: was the settlement money earmarked for specific use categories?
No.
And
I
told them no, and the person said, "Well, that's a shame." However, there was some conditions or things that we were advised to do to prohibit what happened in the past from happening again.
Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about that.
So let's semantics, right? Earmarked means that the legislature carved out money for this. When her name, Attorney General Denise
George,
Counts, was settling some of these things, I said to her, listen, make sure in the settlement agreement you set aside money for specific things. Mm-hmm. So we just don't have a spending spree and we don't get stuff done. Mental illness, making sure that we take care of victims and advocates for them. Mm-hmm. Justice, we need a building for justice. So there are things that are already protection from trafficking and child safety. All those things are already built in. The rest is brata. You could do what you want with that money. Mm-hmm. And we made sure we did it like that. So it's not earmarked, but I put aside the money, like I was saying, so the legislature have things to spend. And I told them, I said, listen, don't do any more capital projects. We have too many capital projects. We're building everything. Mm-hmm. If you put something else to be built, it's never going to be built, and the money's going to sit there.
So you want them to focus on policy?
Yeah, and doing things like, I don't even know. It's like there's not much in the Virgin Islands right now that's not funded. And I'll tell you some of the things. The mental behavioral health is not funded, and it's not funded at a what's the right word? At the operational level. So we need more psychiatrists, more health workers, more case workers.
We need more doctors, though, in general, for the medical profession.
Right. So a psychologist is like $400,000 a year or something. So we need money there. But you don't get any credit for that when you run it. Oh, I put a psychologist in health. Nobody cares. Yes,
But that's my job, though. I have an obligation as a voice, along with the other voices, to educate the public as to how valuable that is.
Right.
The senator shouldn't have to articulate during a campaign, well, I did this as it relates to getting a specific. Remember, we had certain areas in the medical profession where we didn't have physicians here. So we need to educate the public. I'll take part of that responsibility. That's our job.
You've been there. You've done a good job and you do a good job of explaining what some of these things are. And it's like, when you look, I often speak to legislators, and I say, listen to some of them, just jump on my back, right? Listen, we got...
You labeled yourself a lame duck back in December 2022, right?
I gonna swim across the water. I gonna face the shark them.
But
just jump on my back.
But I just want to ask this question. You are sensitive to the fact that the Senators have a contract call in 24 that you don't have.
Yes.
That's very, very important.
Why showing you, right? You know, they get upset because I said a win. But, you know, you could win too. It's like, you don't even realize you winning, because if you're a Democratic senator and the governor passed something, do something, it's Democrats. And you never hear anybody say, us Democrats did it. Or, you know, all the stuff you say, all the road paving, anything that's going on, all the improvements.
So you telling them jump on it now then?
Jump on my back, like swimming across the ocean.
Great conversation. You don't have a great conversation, right? Time to fly. You know what I'm saying? But we got a governor for the next hour. You here till 10 or you?
10.
Okay, be good. Can you say 11 o'clock press? So we got another hour the governor. When we come back, we're gonna talk energy, recovery, and education. Got the governor here in the studio with us a day and a half after the State of the Territorial Address. Be back right after this.
The views and opinions expressed on Analyze This are entirely those of the on-air participants and do not reflect those of the station's board, management, staff, or underwriters.
PBS Video app. Install it on your phone, tablet, smart TV, or other streaming device, and use it to access more of the PBS shows you love. But if you're looking for even more shows to binge like this, or early access to shows like this, then look for this icon. That's the PBS Passport icon, and it means that video is part of PBS Passport. Passport is our way of saying thank you to our station members. Donate to your local PBS station today, and one of the member benefits you'll receive is PBS Passport, which offers extended access to a growing library of new and favorite PBS programs. You can support your station and your community by becoming a member today. Visit pbs.org/getpassport for details. Watch PBS Passport anytime on any screen, wherever you stream. It's your ticket to the best of PBS.
The PBS NewsHour has a rich legacy of in-depth reporting and strong storytelling.
Only 4 people have sat in that chair before us, and the enormity of this moment is not lost on me. People turn to us because they know they can hear from trusted sources of information and news.
That won't change a bit, even as the faces behind the desk change. Good evening, I'm Jeff Bennett.
And I'm Amna Nabaz.
Weekdays at 7 p.m. on WTJX TV, Channel 12.
I got some batteries and 2 flashlights.
What's up, champ? I feel like you get taller every time I see you.
The views and opinions expressed on Analyze This are entirely those of the on-air participants and do not reflect those of the station's board, management, staff, or underwriters.
And we're back here at Analyze This. Some programming notes for Channel 12 tonight. The PBS NewsHour kicks it off at 7 p.m. At 8 p.m. Forever Wild. Explore an environmental and democratic triumph in the historic town of Telluride, Colorado. Wow, Forever Wild. I go watch that. And Nature at 9 p.m. Follow along a Madagascan chameleon and a Scottish water vole travel to secure their bloodlines. They bringing out the St. Dunstan's in me, Governor. Use with all these big words, right? And then Nova at 10 p.m. Watch as Otzi, a 5,000-year-old mummy, is brought to life and preserved with 3D modeling, and then Secrets of the Dead takes us from 11 to midnight, investigate exactly where Hannibal and his troops crossed the Alps to attack Rome. Then, of course, at midnight, I'm Important Company, which used to be 11 p.m., but time turned back. So, you know what that is, right? Now, so PBS NewsHour at 7, Forever Wild at 8, Nature at 9, Nova at 10, Secrets of the Dead at 11, I'm Important Company at midnight. Governor, you see this beautiful young lady on the cover?
Yeah, she is beautiful.
That man back there, that's his daughter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the apartment engineer, yeah. So, you know what I mean? So his daughter Jade made the cover. She's the princess. Yeah. Ricardo Richards, right? Good. One more thing. I mentioned St. Dunstan's. One of them tell me a shout out from Finucane. Valley listening from Florida. Governor Bryan.
That was my classmate.
So our St. Dunstan's brethren listening. So shout out. So you had Mark, I had Scott, right? Yeah, you had Mark, I had Scott, right? He said proud of you also. Thanks a lot. So Joey, go looking out there with all that stuff. Governor, let me just take off your governor hat and look at the Virgin Islands. Where are we in terms of coming out of the pandemic, or at least what it was? We're now in endemic window, or whatever window we know. Where are we as to where we need to be by 2030, 2035?
You know, when we write the State of the Union, the State of the Territory address, we always come with a team, right? This year is we resolute. And, you know, we went back and forth on this, you know, the team, are we all like that? You know, I didn't like resolute so much. And I was like, what we feeling is the pains of progress. And what is that? Is inflation, lack of enough labor, heap of bureaucracy and not having enough people to get stuff through, not being able to, you know, work together in a way to understand that the times have changed. You know, I was driving through town last night thinking, you know, even our procurement process, right? We're using the same procurement process from 40, 50 years ago.
That's why we got procurement background.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, like times have changed so much. It's like for projects less than, I was saying, even $500,000, you just need to get 3 bids. This whole Senate, three price quotes, sending out a bid and everything. We need to be able to be flexible enough to negotiate with people and say, listen, like, how much to pay in here? $6,000. Nah, we only paying $1,500. Because we have enough money to do that. And going forward, I am really afraid because Virgin Islanders build more homes and own more properties during downtimes than uptimes. I'm going to say it again.
Yeah, say it again so I can process it there.
Virgin Islanders build more homes and retain and own more property during recessions, not periods of boom. Anytime we have a period of boom, everything goes through the roof. People come down from the States. They take advantage because it's cheap to them because they live in economies where maybe it's more expensive to get the level of things we want. You're saying, Croy, for $1 million, you live in walking distance to the beach. 5-bedroom. I saw a house in Judith Fancy, 4 beds, 5 baths, a half-acre of land, less than a quarter mile from the beach, less than 1/8 mile from the beach, $1 million. I don't even think it was a million. I think it was like 945.
You did some work in that. You had a window in the housing authority, right?
Yes, I did.
I was able to tell me one time one of the feds come here and he went down by Mali project and he turned to Ireland. He said, "These people complain about living in these beachfront condos." I know you started laughing when I mentioned Mali because he said, "Yo, these people, I don't know if they really know how good they have it based on the location. No, the actual facility and the property is a whole different thing, but right next to the beach."
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you, like, especially St. Croix, you know, when you look at the level of it is, but for somebody here to take on a mortgage, number one, we risk averse and we debt averse. And so we don't want to take on a mortgage. How am I going to pay that? Suppose I lose my job.
Well, there's two different worlds in the territory, you know.
Two different.
Because at the same time, I said they don't have a problem with taking on a risk. Over here, we're not with that.
Well, I mean, when you look up, you think about, we don't think about it like this, right? Like how we think of ourselves. I had dinner with a gentleman last night, right? Like how you think of yourself. He said, Governor, he says, in the history of the United States, there has never been a governor with as much money as you.
Per capita.
period, to spend. No black governor has ever had $12 billion of federal spending. $8 billion. I didn't think about it at the time, and I was like, wow. Now, when you look up in St. Thomas and you look up on the hill, you know half of them people is millionaires, right? Because all them houses on the hill worth more than $1 million. All them houses where you see with like the 3-4 apartments and the stilts going up from here to nowhere, all them houses are worth over $1 million. And you don't think about wealth like that when you come in. When you go in St. Croix, you go Judith Fancy, you go Shoys, you could go Queen's Quarter.
Parts of East End.
Them houses $800,000-$900,000, $1 million, $2 million, and a lot of them houses belong to local people. So when we think about ourselves and the wealth that we have here, it's incredible.
No, but looking forward, how are we going to address our energy crisis, and specifically true diversification to allow for that cost to be reined in?
Let me tell you something. I am a blessed child of God, I say, but we have our challenges. There is so much money in the energy space. I was thinking about the old time Senate. You had the privilege of working with a lot of the old heads in the legislature, and you had some senators like Dow and like Roosevelt and Celestino, even David Jones. What he had name of God, Lewis Hill. Them dudes that see that kind of money, they just be like, but just spend the money because you keep the economy going, they're gonna come back. The Virgin Islands, the government ain't really borrow no money in like 10, 20 years. We went to the bond market and refinanced the debt we already had.
Specific purpose to help the GRS.
Right, but like we're at least $600 million less in debt now than when I took office.
Wow.
Right? And our economy...
Long-term debt you're talking.
Long-term debt.
Yeah.
Our economy has collected $1 billion in general fund revenue in 1 year. So all the indicators are telling you're doing well. What's killing you is cash. Cash to kill.
And the energy cost is the reason for that.
So you have...
the investment. Let's talk about the true investment, because I do a power hour here every month. And, Kyle Fleming, all he doing is talking about grants this, grants that, and we're getting favorable results with respect to what we apply for. So you just mentioned it. You confirmed it there, the energy window that we're in right now. How do we invest and how do we get people to buy into this investment so that everybody could play a part in the cost of energy?
Well,
reduction in the cost.
Even if let me tell you this here. Even if we got $100 million solar for all grants we apply for, we already got $64 million on another way. Even if none of that money is applied, when VI Electron finish these 5 solar fields, right? We're going to be getting power from them at like 10 cents a kilowatt hour. And then WAPA, I said it in the thing, but we get 9 megawatts of battery storage being installed with a watt solar. So remember in the time when we had to run a 25 megawatt generator.
That's like what, 20%, 25% of the total amount?
About that, right? Yeah. We run a 25 megawatt generator. So we run in 2, that's 50 megs, right? But the load is only 35 tonight. You can't turn off the other 15.
Yeah. Now, the Hedgington was teaching me that.
So you burning current that you really don't need. Now, if we had a situation like that, all of that power is charging them batteries. So tonight, you could turn off a generator and let it run on the batteries. So you number one, you're more efficient because you're wasting more energy. When a power trip or any generator trip, the battery kick on. Just like when you have a computer plugged into an uninterrupted power supply. So it smooths it out too. And then these generators are only I think they're 9 megs each. So it's I forget now, it's probably 6 or 7 of them we have. So you could turn them on in sequence and in series and get them off and on running. And I mean, it's just so much efficiency there. But between the solar, the wind, once that happens, right, then the biggest thing is what I'm working on now is WAPA's overall debt.
Oh, well, quickly before we get to that, one topic that came up in the most recent Power Hour, which was Friday the 13th, I think it was. Was it the 8th? The 12th. It was Friday the 12th. OTEC, right? John Abramson was listening, and he was the second energy office director we had. Frank Prince, right. Frank Prince was number one, right? And so I got him into the conversation. One of our better, we always have great Power Hours, but that one was really good. We actually made a commitment to OTEC, and apparently the facility was supposed to be over there by Salt River.
This is the Ocean Technology.
Ocean Technology, right. This is back in the I had Kyle explain geothermal, and then John came in and
said, "That's a smart brother."
Yeah, man. Yeah, geothermal.
Carl 2.0.
Yes, sir. Geothermal is about heat. OTEC is about ocean technology, right? You know what John said, which was painful? He said, "Is the same WAPA from 20, 30 years ago that was saying, why change the terrain?" Right. Not realizing you got to invest now because things become obsolete overnight. You know what I'm saying? So you mentioned solar, wind, wind. OTEC is something as well, but we got to invest, and then we got to stick to the plan, Governor.
You see what I was reading a paper this morning, and we're talking about Sandra Satori talking about more people coming off the grid and making it more expensive for individuals. That is what is making it more expensive for the individual is having to run all of those generators and the WAPA overhead debt. So right now, WAPA has good debt because the interest rates, the prime is 8.5%.
Mm-hmm.
So
they say ain't looking to raise.
And their debt is around 4, 5, 6. So, people are paying more for money than WAPA paying for money. And that's a good thing. But when you look at what's happening in Puerto Rico and the president is really committed to fixing the power problem over there, we benefiting from that. Because every time he give them money, he look over and he tell them, let me get them some money too. So we have WAPA has 400-500 million in debt. I doubt it's even that. I think it's more like 3-4. And then they have a line of credit for $60 million. We don't need to realign that debt, but we need to refinance it in a way. Not now, as interest rates get lower, and just pitch it out. So you got you had a $100,000 mortgage, right? It's been 20 years now. So you only owe $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
But your payment is the same as 20 years ago. You're still paying $1,000 a month. So if you take the $50,000 and you finance it out 30 years, right? You're gonna be paying $500.
Mm-hmm.
Your payment goes down, and that's what we gotta do. Is kind of kick the can down the road for the debt.
Well, it's like a football contract, right? Where you sign a quarterback at 5 years, $250 million, right? And then you got dead cap space after when the third year the contract comes in. So at that point you go back to the quarterback and say, yo, let me renegotiate this again so we could extend out the amount of space you're taking up for the total cost for me to run the football team for that year. But that is progressive financing. So we got to teach that to the public.
You just make me smile because you have a wealth of information and experience. The current legislature never read the refinancing of the debt for the GRS was the only bond debenture, the only bond experiencing they really went through. There's a very young legislature. Marvin Blyden is the senator with the most.
He, Novell and Kenny.
Yeah, they're the seniors.
5 years. When your senior senators is only got 9 years in and in their 10th year now, it speaks to how young your body is.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that you don't have the type of financial experience that senators who had sat there for a long time have seen. So we really have been operating in a hand-to-mouth, check-to-check, build your house out of your pocket cash situation when governments don't operate like that. Governments seek debt. They try to build a bond rating. They borrow money to do things. We haven't had to do that because we have money for the schools and money for the hospital, money for the roads. We've been getting good cash in. But Providence says while you have the available credit, you borrow the money and you do the things that need to do, get you to the next thing, keep your economy flowing. And this is part of I gotta give him credit. Carl Knight is what he say when we have these discussions, Carl is saying to me, we have to put the government in a natural position of finance so that when succession comes, when the next governor comes,
they have the ability to do that.
Yes, because it always going to be
and I'm glad you went there. I want to explain it to the public, right? When we say taking on debt, don't interpret it as, well, that means my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren, we borrow money on their back. No. What you do, right, it requires some discipline as well. In other words, if you are obligated to pay $50 million to satisfy a particular loan, right, over, or mortgage, whatever it is, over a 15-year period, and in year 6, you have the ability to do something, right, which requires more borrowing, but it's going to reduce your annual obligation, you got to do two things. You take the risk, and then you invest along the same time, so that, like in year 14, you can walk up to the bank and say, I'm ready to buy out myself now.
And here's the rub, right? We have been borrowing for operational costs for decades.
Mm-hmm.
We're not borrowing really to do operation. We're borrowing to facilitate capital projects because all these things are going on. So if you get a line of credit, now think about this. The budget is $1.2, $1.3 billion.
Including federal.
Having a line of credit of $50 million
peanuts.
It's like having it's like you make $100,000 and you get a credit card for $50. That makes sense? We wouldn't do a credit card with $50. So it's not even
relatively speaking, though, you gotta let the public know.
Yeah, relatively speaking. Yeah. So it's not even a play to say, and it's trust, you know. It's not even a play to say this is something that is so exorbitant. This is just a normal part of how governments do business. And what we have to do is we have to look forward and start to try to line up things so that we don't get into a situation where I have $100 million cash file. We don't have operational costs, you know.
What we're saying is combination fried rice, right? You can't just buy beef today and leave it alone. Do everything, right? But we invest in, Governor, is really, really the key, which we're going to come to in the next segment. That we're going to talk, this next segment, our recovery. To let us know where we're at. Explain to the public, it was 8 bill, it's now 12, and it could be up to 15 when you put in the money for the water, the sewer system and all that stuff. So we'll take a break, come back, talk with the governor some more so he could break down the state of the territory. Not the address, the state of the territory. Be back right after this.
My skin, think it's time I find my place here.
Fasten your seatbelt.
You're taking my breath away.
Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
Amazing.
Well, what are you waiting for?
You belong here. This is your home.
What is your sense now of the humanitarian situation?
This is making me emotional.
This experience I'm going to carry with me the rest of my life.
I'll always be so grateful for everything you did for me.
Here's what's new this month with Passport.
Whichever way I turn, there's a trap.
Let's set this palace on fire.
She's to be married.
She is not married yet.
It's never a burden to love or give. The mother is at the heart of everything we do.
These and all your favorite shows are available with Passport. Support your PBS station and stream more with Passport on the PBS app.
Man, it's lonely. Going through life lonely.
There is the therapeutic aspect of music.
And we're back. Okay, yeah. That's my fault, right? We're back. We got the governor here in the studio. We're talking about the state and the territory governor. I want you to know that early on, right? I think it was Vern Hart. You mentioned him, right? Things are not too hot. I took the picture at the parade. I don't know if you saw it. You saw it on the steel band with the Rising Stars. Yeah. They got a banner there. Yeah. Nothing is too hard that hard work can't address. But he mentioned something. It was him or maybe Tappy Malloy early on, right? Where we like to talk about our gross domestic product. And he said, one of them said, what we really need to focus on is our gross territorial happiness. Right? Which means that we need people working and we need reinvestment so that people could feel confident and feel good about living in the Virgin Islands. Which brings me to the recovery. Let me go back to January 2019 when the government is now yours. The baton is passed on. $8 billion was the number then. And then what has happened since then to get us to where we are at 12 and potentially 15?
So let me tell you
let me do that foundation first before we start to get technical.
When that, I never believed MAP had $8 billion. I was bluffing out. I was like, he ain't got $8 billion. So when the reality of it came in, none of us understood, and most of us in the community don't understand what $8 billion is. And it was a trial by fire. And the first part of it is, God's so good to me, right? It's like Adrian, you got to understand, Adrian was in labor and she did the Private Industry Council where she worked with workforce. Then she went to...
Talking about Adrian Williams, Director of the Office of Disaster Recovery.
Then she went to housing where she dealt with Section 8, right? She left housing and went to Housing Finance Authority where she dealt with private investment,
development,
mixed income developments, home ownership, became the executive director there, left there and went to FEMA and dealt with recovery. Adrian was a head recovery person at FEMA for the territory. And then she went to ODR. Mm-hmm. So this is a person who, I blessed her because she has experience in everything. And her running that department, she had such good relationships with FEMA. First, we had to level size it. You get your paperwork for trade, what's working, what's not, who's in charge, where do we go, how do we map out our plan. Then we had to get people paid. People forget, we had $600 million of housing. Remember all them houses, people talk about Envision, but there was 4,000 house roofs that were repaired.
Well, the big issue in 2019, if I remember it, was getting contractors paid.
Exactly. So it took us, and then a year, 2 years during COVID to, number one, get everything straight, get a payment process through, because we had $8 billion, but FEMA's reimbursable. How do we get $100 million to pay you so we could get $90 million back? And then she's the one that went and negotiated the pay on invoice. So now it's kind of reimbursable, but as soon as we give them the invoice, they pay. So the first part was and during COVID, level setting and getting everything right, and then negotiating all these fixed cost offers. I mean, your hospital is done. FEMA has a process where they say, you negotiate, what is the maximum amount of money I'm going to give you for this hospital? Mm-hmm. So when we hear us say, we think we got $800 million in damage, we go to FEMA and they say, well, we think we got 6. No, we got 8. We go back and forth and then they say, okay, we agree on 8. Then they obligate. They say, okay, you have $800 million to build this hospital. That's a long process. What made it more difficult was the Bipartisan Budget Act. Stacey went to Congress and with Jennifer Lopez, the same Jennifer Lopez. Mm-hmm.
Delegate Plaskett, by the way.
Delegate Plaskett.
I don't want people beating up on you for using right there. Delegate Plaskett.
I mean, all these people, anyway.
I know.
Delegate Plaskett went, and they got it that said that if the building was more than 50% damage, FEMA had to replace the whole thing. Never been done in history before. We had to go back and negotiate that. What does that mean? What are the rules around that? All of that stuff had to go. Mm-hmm. What are the standards?
The resident commissioner of Puerto Rico had to do the same thing for Puerto Rico?
Do the same. They were over
Wow.
there, you know.
So there were a lot of there's a lot of administrative window work that took place. That do you think that's legit as to why recovery hasn't moved forward at the pace that you would want it to move forward?
Yeah, but the reality is we
Not just you, we as a territory, we would want it to be.
We wanted to move fast, but the reality is Katrina's still open 20 years
yes,
later.
2005, you're right. We got a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. How are you? Good morning, caller.
You're gone.
I don't know.
So
maybe answer them.
The recovery.
Is the caller still there? I guess not.
The recovery, while we think it's atypical, it is typical. I mean, and then you're looking at some place like New Orleans that is connected by train, railway, highways, airlines, shipping. They could drive to get more resources. We can't. And New Orleans is a city in a state. There are 100 other cities and towns in Louisiana. So getting this done is really incredible. I mean, when you talk to somebody who's seen these disasters, they say it's incredible where we are now. Designing all of these things takes forever. That's why we came up with this USVI rebuild. So Adrienne has really, and her team, she's got an incredible group of young people working for her. Every time I go in there, I just be like so proud of our young people.
We got a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. How are you? Question for the governor?
Good morning, Governor. It's Lori from Solitude.
Hi, Lori.
I know this voice. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm still trying to find out when our road's going to get paved after 25 years. We've been waiting a while, Governor. And you made a campaign promise. I'm hoping you're going to stick to it.
I never made a campaign promise. I know people keep saying that, Lori.
Actually, that's not true, Governor. You told me within 6 months that road would get paved.
No. The road to go out East End, and it is paved from all the way out to almost to Kramer's Park, all the way to the reef. So I can tell you, as very honestly as a politician, the amount of roads that we have in the Virgin Islands that is major traffic, way in priority in front of
which road are you speaking about specifically, Larry?
This is Solitude. It's directly across from Ziggy's. Governor, I'm sorry. I'm being respectful here, but you did promise me that road would get
going up
paved.
the road.
This is when you say you mean from Coakley Bay heading east to where the president?
No, sir. I'm sorry.
It looks like a private road across from where the gas station is.
Going
up that road.
To go into Pleasant Valley.
Yeah, to go into Pleasant Valley.
But it's not a private road, sir. It is a public road, and you did promise me it would.
Well, I could tell you publicly that's not a priority. I got roads that people traversing over every single day, hundreds of thousands of people traversing that need to be fixed before we fix one road up East End up to Pleasant Valley. And if we get the money to do it, if we didn't have to pay WAPA, we'd happily do it. But I could tell you, frankly, that's not the priority right now.
And Governor, I appreciate the situation you're in. I know what money is like, and I get all of that. But it is a case of I've now spent $1,200 in less than a year on my car because of the damage that road has caused. And I get that part of the price I pay for where I live. But I don't think having decent roads in the territory is an unrealistic expectation of your electorate. I don't think that's too much to ask, truly.
Thank you very much. That's a legitimate perspective. Thank you very much, Lori. We appreciate that. And I'll ask a question to the governor. Governor, maybe you could speak to this. Territory-wide, right? Infrastructure is really the most important thing. That's the way we communicate. You know, people don't know that. And what's the process for paving roads? Normally, we had people would call senators. They called me and said, Neville, blah, blah, blah. Senator Sanders, we're good at this, right? This particular road need to pave. But then there's a public works dynamic. There's identifying funds dynamic. There's a contractor dynamic. Explain this to the public so they will get a feel for what we're dealing with.
It's $1 million a mile. We get over 720 miles of road in Virgin Islands. You know the conversation I want to have with the public? Like, we haven't raised taxes on anything in the 5 years I've been governor.
And we can't raise taxes because the cost of energy, that's the reason why the Waste Management Authority, since its creation in 2003, 2004, it would be unfair to the public given what we got to pay for energy.
You saying that, but the reality is I just told you everything went up 20%, right? So instead of costing us $1 million a mile, it now costing us $1.2 million a mile, right?
Yes.
The government isn't raising taxes. So if the public wants the roads paved, let's walk out all the roads.
I'm disagreeing with your principle.
Let me finish.
No, but I'm not disagreeing. I just want to know that.
Yeah. I know you're disagreeing with me. We work out what it is going to cost, just like any other place does, and say it's going to cost us $200 million to pave all the roads we need to pave. Miss Laurie Road up in Solitude, all the other little private roads. When I say private, where these are roads where regular citizens going like Center Line and the highway. These are roads.
Heavy traffic you're talking about.
Yeah. These are roads that service our community, but really we don't have the money to do it. And we say it's $200 million, right? We then pass a resolution. We put it on the ballot, just like everybody does, and says, here's a resolution to charge everybody 2% tax on their income every year for the next 5 years to finance all this road paving.
They're going to lose miserably.
But you can't want better and not want to pay, because there's no money to pave local roads. We have $5 million that we take from the highway
transportation trust fund.
Yes, the transportation trust fund. $5 million is peanuts. That's money to patch. It cost us.
But you're right, Governor. I'm not denying that. There has to be some level of taxation to generate revenue to pay for projects. That's a factual thing. But here's the example that I use with the Waste Management Authority. Right? We created the Waste Management Authority. What was the goal back then? Wasn't it to get people to pay for the service?
That's right.
Right? And as senators back then, we knew, right, that it was economically a hardship. It was political death. If you're asking, I'm just being very candid now, looking backwards, asking John and Jane Q. Public to pay for waste management services at a time when we were in an energy crisis. Remember, the most famous, infamous acronym in the history of the Virgins will always be LEAC, right? And here's the story. We're 20 years into this thing, and it's still holding us back because it would be political suicide and economic hardship. So we got to fix that problem. And then incorporate what you're suggesting, which is the taxation.
Yeah, because, you put it to the people. Like, you can't, you're living in a house, you're paying the same rent for the last 40 years, and you want to know why your shutters falling apart, why the system need to clean out, the pump ain't working good. It's like you're paying the same amount of taxes. So let's say the entire Virgin Islands pays about $1.6 billion a year in wages, right? 2% would be $32 million a year, right? $32 million for 10 years could float a bond for $200 million. And we take that money and we say, we list the roads. We put down a list of the roads and we say, these are the roads that are going to be paved and repaired due to this bond issuing. And then for 10 years, we pay the 2% and then we stop.
And in principle, that's excellent math and financing. I just telling you, from a political standpoint, the public's level of, that's why public confidence is actually the most valuable thing. Because if they believed that we could get a job done, they support that. But they don't believe.
But it's like everything.
And our energy crisis mash us up, man. And our money gone.
Everything in the Virgin Islands, like, we fix it, and we've exactly trained the public to believe that we gonna figure it out. Like, the leadership will figure it out. To Washington will figure it out. Nobody really is forced to pay. We had this sin tax, right?
Oh.
Forget that? With the sin tax money that was supposed to pay the 8%.
Wow.
Right?
Wow, we get beat up for that there.
Yeah. The legislature could take the sin tax and say, listen, we're going to take the sin tax and we're going to just pave road with it. So I call this tied taxes, right? And I believe in it. Like, your public always saying, oh, well, to do this and you do that. They just say, here's another example, right? The government wasting the money, the government ain't using the money. But then the government, they'll go out and they're supporting, public will support the U.S. the steel workers want me to pay, like, not me, the Virgin Islands people, to pay like 15% hazard pay to employees that have hazardous duty. Like, how you if you're a nurse, you're exposed to viruses and everything all the time. How you gonna pay you a hazard duty on top of the pay? You get paid a salary, but once you start this hazard,
The base salary is supposed to be commensurate with what you provide.
everybody's in the hazard. That's not a debt. And everybody's going to say, pay the teachers more money. Okay, well, we're going to have to, in order for us to pay the teachers more money, because I just want to take a second to explain to people. Federal money is very prescriptive, right? You could only use it for what they say you could use it for. So we got money to build new schools, not repair schools. Build new schools, not school maintenance. Repair the schools that were damaged from hurricane stuff. Build a hospital. Do undergrounding. Repair of some roads that we digging up due to the undergrounding we have to do. But we don't have any money other than general fund for behavioral health. We spend millions of dollars every year in care for people that their families don't have any money to care for them.
That's stateside care you're talking about.
6, 7, I think it's up to like 10, 15 million a year we pay, right? We pay money for people who go to the hospital who don't have health insurance, don't qualify for Medicaid or Medicare. We pay for that. We pay to maintain all the roads in the territory. There's not enough money for that. The hospital is behind on the light bill because they don't have enough money to pay for that.
So then let me ask this question.
It's like,
shouldn't we take advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity where the President of the United States loves the Virgin Islands, Governor?
And I mean, I thought about that, but, the President, and I you don't really think about it. I think about it because I'm a politician. The President of the United States doesn't have a pot of cash that he could go, I could pay for that.
Yeah, well, that's why you use the other insular possessions, though. Make it a territorial thing.
But he don't.
Include Guam, American Samoa, CNMI, a high level of sensitivity to our insular possessions, because you mentioned it earlier, we're all detached. We're not part of a grid.
But even with that, right, he still need an act of Congress.
They're soft with us, man. They come here to have honeymoons and vacations. They like us, man.
There's a problem, though. Yeah. Nothing gets done in Congress because the Republicans and the Democrats are fighting.
We're going to talk politics in the last segment and education. Quickly, you're going to restate the amount of money set aside for the 3 schools, right? We have 3 schools?
Yeah.
Right? 3 new schools and all that stuff. We'll be back right after this with the governor. Very candid conversation this morning.
My problem.
It tears me up inside, but that all ends now.
You better own it. This is the moment.
You need to look for something positive.
Change is coming. It cannot be denied.
This is it.
Is there like a healthy level of hope?
This is the future. You better own it. This is the moment.
I want to make them proud by telling the story.
You're not going anywhere right now.
This is the moment.
I'm terribly excited to be the anchor of PBS News Weekend. We have become known for independent, fact-based reporting. We're challenging the viewers to understand the world a little better. We present all sides of a story. We take the time to put them in context. When viewers watch PBS News Weekend, I hope they come away informed and perhaps a different perspective than they had thought of before. Good evening, I'm John Yang. Tonight on PBS News Weekend.
Weekends at 6 p.m.
When they learn something new and you can just see in their faces, it's such an incredible moment. It's those moments that are my favorite.
And we're back having a very straightforward conversation with the governor this morning. Day and a half removed from giving his 6th territorial address. We got caller on the line, but before we go to the caller, Governor, quickly, 3 new schools are what we're looking at right now, and we're looking...
850 million.
Just for the 3 schools?
Yeah.
Wow, Governor, man, 850, that's...
Is 850? But I include Arthur Richards too, 850 million.
So it's 4 schools then, right?
Yeah, the system done now in
$212,000 per school, man. I remember, was it 17, 18 years ago, a school with 30, 40 mil, man?
Yeah.
Wow.
No. I mean, these are extraordinary schools. I mean, the Arthur Richards Kids Rate have a pool. And, these places look...
Like Country Day? You used to got a pool back in the day?
Yeah. It makes Country Day looks like day camp for poor kids.
Wow. Good morning, Carla. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm calling about the discussion about roads and such, and I'm very curious why the governor is floating an income tax when actually vehicles are what use our roads, and an excise tax on the value of the vehicles, which would include the big trucks, which do most of the damage, and maybe an increase in the fuel tax would help to fund exactly what we're talking about, the roads.
I mean, it could work too. I mean, I just recommended one thing. We have a fuel tax, and what we did is the legislature, maybe like 7 years ago, split the fuel tax, and half of that goes to WAPA to fund the generator project that they were doing. But even that 14 cents a gallon that we pay, that's nominal. I mean, when I said the income tax is the easiest thing and the most even thing, because everybody who gets a check contributes. If you do light bill, everybody doesn't pay the light bill.
Along the lines with what the caller just said, we got a text message. He said time for a sales tax for online off-island business purchases. What about that?
Why not an excise tax on the value of the vehicles? The big trucks would have to pay more. They tear the roads up more.
Right.
Everybody with a vehicle would be paying a tax. And it's going to basically, that's an income tax. If you have a nice $80,000 vehicle, you're going to pay more in excise tax, and the fuel tax should certainly be. I mean, that's the lowest in the country.
Right. Sir,
Caller, thank you very much for your suggestion, caller. Thank you.
You're
Thanks a
very
lot.
welcome. Thank you.
You got it.
The other thing, I 100% agree with him, is like we should raise the excise tax on larger vehicles, because now we want people to use electric vehicles. So you make that for free, and then the tires, the parts, everything for any vehicle that's a 4-wheel drive, gas guzzler, more than a certain tonnage, you make them pay more. But that's good policy that drives what we want. We want people to drive smaller vehicles. We want them to use the photovoltaic PV vehicles. Correct. But that takes the legislature.
Yeah, but
and people, that's a big fight, because I'm not saying
that's why you don't need lame duck legislation sometimes. You know what I'm saying? But since you mentioned excise tax, you wrote a letter to the Interior Department in 2000 about the billions of dollars they owe the people of the Virgin Islands for our petroleum products manufactured into the territory beginning in '66 through 2012. And you stated in that, and I don't tease Rocky and Ducks and Ronnie. You stated in that letter the principles of res judicata don't allow us to go back there, right? But they owe us significant money, Governor, and it really shouldn't be just about excise taxes. It was about the fact that they were manufacturing petroleum products and the environmental impact for all those years. They owe us something for that, Governor. Oh gosh, man.
It's always it's always there, and you push it. I think the delegate has been a champion of that. Delegate Plaskett has been a champion of that too. But there's so much pressing issues in front of that. Like, we try and get our rum cover for now. I mean, our tax
you need to make that permanent at 1325.
Yeah, and it's been an extremely difficult Congress for her, because we like the flea on the back of the elephant. It's like trying to get the rum extenders included has been so incredibly difficult, because of the last conversations we had. We spoke.
Have you ever? Could you ever imagine that? I don't mean to cut you off. That a Congress could be so dysfunctional like this one is, and they don't seem to understand that their dysfunction is impacting literally every municipality, city, county, state.
Yeah, but the blame is spread among 435 people. So in the Congress, so they don't feel it as much. But we can't get anything done. COVID, we got so much done in D.C. I mean, it was beautiful.
You know why, right? Because the fear of not knowing what was behind the wall, it forced them to come together and realize we had to do things.
But now it's a standoff again. Immigration, taxes, right now, I could tell you, right? Some of it is ridiculous because right now, the Democrats are holding out on this child tax credit. The nation is in 3% unemployment, okay? We could cede on some of the social stuff. We don't even have to cede. We just don't have to ask for any more. I mean, when you have 3% unemployment, I mean, there's available work for people, right?
Yes.
So why, we got to get people the impetus, the drive, they get up and go to work. If you keep increasing benefits, then these people are not going to go to work. Now,
don't cut them though, and they're threatening to cut them.
Don't
Social
cut
Security and Medicare can't do that.
But they're only doing that because the Democrats want to increase the child tax care credit and want to be able to do a cash disbursement they did.
But we were a big benefit of what the Democrats
we
did. Because remember, that was $40 million a year that you were obligated to pay while you're governor and all that stuff. Governor, remember back in 2011, 2012, you came before the legislature because we were struggling with the close of the refinery. And we wanted to borrow money.
Right.
I think it was, and the businesses used to pay 1.5% or something like that.
The unemployment
insurance, right? You familiar with that?
We still owe like $70 million.
We owe $70 million, but there was a time when we had tens, 20, 30s million dollars in there.
Oh, we had 100 something.
100 million.
Way over funded.
And this is a situation where the legislature really undermined ourselves. We raided that fund,
right?
And then it ended up to the point where
we didn't raid the fund. What the legislature did.
I'm talking about in 2001, 2002, senators back then.
What they did, they didn't do it because they couldn't do anything with the money. Well, what they did is they allowed the businesses to stop paying unemployment insurance tax.
Mm-hmm.
It was zero for over a decade. And what happened is right when it was right to start putting in the tax, the Great Recession hit. So now you're in a situation
2007, 2008, correct.
Businesses are failing. You can't raise unemployment tax because it stops people from getting hired. And at the same time, businesses don't have the money to pay. So, and people are drawing on not unemployment back then was 120 million a year.
Wow.
Yeah. Hats were closed. We went through some rough times. This is why when people talk to me now about fiscal crisis, I was like, you don't even know what a fiscal crisis looks like. Charles Turnbull, when he was governor, after 9/11 and the planes stopped flying, the budget was $550 million. They couldn't get beyond $450 million. That's 20% of your budget that you got cut. We were so broke. Remember, we actually missed a payday for a couple of days. Right?
That was 19. No,
that was in 2000, 2003, thereabouts.
No, we had a delayed payday in April of 1999. And then in 2002, there was another big concern. But keep in mind, though, when 911 hit, we actually had a window of benefit because people weren't flying to Europe.
Right.
And remember, it had so much plane over in the Cyril King Airport, the private jets had to park in St. Croix and then go back for the owners, which means that you need vision, Governor.
But Turnbull was a lucky governor too, God rest his soul, because right about then he hit the EDC tax boom.
Yes.
And we had like one taxpayer was paying $60 million a year.
Yeah,
that was like over 10% of the budget at the time.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the gentleman who called in and go back to the income tax again. 89 people pay 66% of all the income tax in the Virgin Islands.
90 people.
90 people out of 33,000 tax filers.
Pay 2/3. That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Wow.
So when you're saying, when I listen to people complain about the roads and the schools. And
when you say people, you mean businesses and people.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Constituents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Understand that if you add another 3,000 people to that, right? Those 3,000 people, they pay the other like 15%. So 85 thereabouts percent of all our taxes are paid by 3,000 people. The other 30,000 people only pay 10%. So when you ask why is a community the way it is. People say, "Oh, the government wasting money, the government doing this." The reality is that we don't pay enough taxes to maintain the community we live in.
Well, since you went there, John Woods yesterday joined us at the OL1 on location 1, and he spoke about inflation. And one of the issues that we're seeing on the mainland is greed, where the president touts unemployment down, creating jobs left and right, but then when you go to the market, the price ain't changed, which means that the corporate folk, they still want to maintain that level of revenue that they're being collecting, even though things are supposed to be going good. How do you balance, right? Letting the private sector, letting the business sector know, look, now, I know that, I don't want you to close businesses, but at the same time, I need for you to have a heart. I mean, give me a break. I mean, at what point are we going to stop gouging the people of the Virgin Islands?
Greed is significant, but I remember, I don't give him credit. Jeff Prosser was my boss at one time in history, and he said this to me. He said, when you're a businessman and you're doing well, he says everybody wants a raise, but when you have a recession and the stock dips, nobody wants pay cut. And he said if people would take the pay cuts with the raises the same way, depending on how the business is going, it would be all right. So going back to unions again, when I obligate the government to raising anyone's salary, that's not a raise for this year, I have to pay that extra every single year going forward.
Recurring.
Come what may. And that's something I have to think about, is like, we have really done well by the unions. I don't remember administration where you could have said we had the major contracts negotiated and we actually pay them. Most governors, when they come in after the first 4 years, tell you, yeah, you know how good things was last year when I was running? Things wrong now. We don't have to cut back.
Mr. Flippo said we going year to year and month to month. How do we address that? He took shots at the Office of Collective Bargaining. Is that accurate? And how do we fix it if it is?
It is, but you have to have unions who are reasonable. I told Jerry, who's the head of the union, 2 years ago, I said, Jerry signed a contract. Let's go. Take what you could get now, because I budgeted the raises. But now we're getting into a situation where when we pay these workers, we pay them for 2 and 3 years from behind. That's budget years that's already gone. So when you ask, why the government again a cash flow problem? If I cut a PO in 2021 to build a gymnasium, right? That gymnasium will we gonna be getting billed for that PO through 24. Now it was in 21 budget. The budget year done, but the expense continues. So when you say you're collecting $900 million in revenue this year to pay for the expenses of this year, the expenses from last year still coming in. The expenses from the year before still coming in.
And you don't know what the revenues are.
Exactly.
In this year. And that's something that John Woods told us yesterday, that when contractors cut in deals, they are also factoring what the price for material might be a year or 2 or 3 down the road, depending on how long the project is. Quickly, the office closing, what's your take on that?
I mean,
I mean, government can't save everything, but just personally as to what the Avis has contributed over the years. I don't want everything to be about government. Sometimes you got to look at things
I don't
as a resident. You're a resident of Virgin Islands and live on St. Croix.
I think it's the clarion call for the island, for the territory, and specifically for St. Croix, right? Adopt or die. I mean, I love Rena. The Avis was something that we held truly dear to our hearts. But 2 things. When Island Dairy closed, everybody bowed. I used to cuss in my house all the time, like, why you got this boiled milk in my fridge? Oh, it's cheaper. The Island Dairy milk more expensive. All the people who are complaining on Facebook, when is the last time they buy a Avis? You see the lady who buys, the Daily News that irritate me to the end, right? But we still support the Daily News. Why? Because the people of the Virgin Islands need a newspaper. I have a lot of my seniors and stuff that need
But they went digital also.
Right, and they went digital. So the Virgin Islands, especially St. Croix, have to start adapting. You may not like something, but change is not something you can avoid. it'll just run you over. And when you look at the future, this is a way that we're going to go as a people if we don't adapt. When in the 60s and the 70s, when tourism and oil and watches and all these things came to the Virgin Islands, people came from the Eastern Caribbean and from the States and every place else, and they helped build our economy, right? They saw the opportunity. We're in the 60s and 70s again. The opportunity is there. We could push up our mouth and say we only want to work for the government. We ain't going to do no hot sun work. I ain't going to solve nobody. But the opportunities are there.
So you're
I
saying,
ain't going to college. I ain't taking a vocational class.
So you crystallize into this discussion by saying we in a cycle and the cycle.
This is a cycle repeating itself.
Reach back to 60s and 70s?
I said this before. I said it 2 years ago. And listen what's going to happen. The same thing will happen. Overcrowding of schools, facilities that can't support it. So we're planning now. When you see us doing stuff, we're planning for what's coming because we know what's coming.
Come back before the fear, man. Whatever you do, come back before the. I want you next month. Ask him for now. Go to see you, Governor. Thanks for joining us this morning. Let me shake your hand here so people can see it. And great discussion. Looking forward to having you back. And make sure you walk with Kevin next time. So you can sit in that chair there. Be good, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed on Analyze This are entirely those of the on-air participants and do not reflect those of the station's board, management, staff, or underwriters.